Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making apple dumplings. You don't know what apple dumplings are? You don't know what you've been missing. Those are whole apples. You core them, you stuff a little filling in them, of which we will discuss in a little while, and you wrap them in flaky pastry. So it's sort of like an individual apple pie, and then you don't have to share it with nobody. And that's my favorite type of dessert. But before we get started, I'd like you to become a subscriber, and I'd like you to click that notification button, because I'm telling you, you don't want to miss any of my tips or videos because they're awesome. All right, so let's get started. First thing we have to do is make a flaky pie crust known as a pâte brisée in French. And it means broken crust. Very flaky, very delicious, very buttery. Mine has a little cream cheese in it, so it's awesome and absolutely the flakiest pastry crust you'll ever make anywhere. And you've seen it in many of my videos because it's my go-to. So in a food processor, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. I use a little bit of baking powder just to give it a little puff, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Put it in there. Give it a little pulse. Now, if you don't have a food processor, don't worry about it. You can use a pastry blender, or you can even use a knife and a fork and whisk this with your hands. Super, super easy. Now, this is about 1/2 cup of, or a 1/2 of a container of 8-ounce cream cheese. I cut it into cubes, and I'm putting it in here. This is cold cream cheese. All right, I'm going to give it a whirl around, just so it gets to be broken up a little bit. That's the beginning of coating our gluten strands. The flour hasn't formed gluten yet. Wheat flour only forms gluten when water hits it. We haven't put any water in yet, but it's coming. So this is my trick. I like to put a kitchen towel over my food processor, because otherwise in the little cracks and crevices it comes flying out at me. All right, so I just pulsed it a little bit. Oh yes, see? I got a little bit of flying. So I'm going to take my butter now, 1½ sticks of cubed butter, unsalted butter. I like unsalted because we already added salt. Who needs more salt? And it's ice cold. Now we make this flaky pastry crust first because we do need to let it relax. We need to let it chill out. And if you want apple dumplings next week or next month or in 2 months, you can do it ahead, this flaky pie crust, and you freeze it. And I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to just pulse this until the butter and cream cheese are pea-sized. Like that little garden vegetable, pea-sized. So you pulse, you pulse, you pulse, and now you stop pulsing. All right? And now you're going to add, let's see if we're there. Yeah, we got little tiny little pieces. And there they are, little tiny pieces. They're little pea size, little garden pieces. And before I put my top on, I'm going to add, this is my secret ingredient. Yeah, you're going to want to write this down. Woo! I got it all over. This is my 1 tablespoon of acid. This is an apple cider vinegar. You can use lemon juice. You can use vodka. Some people use vodka. You can use, don't use any other alcohol. Vodka has no flavor, so it's okay. And it's okay that a little bit went over there. That's fine. So a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And then I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of ice water. If you notice, the ice is already in here. You need it cold. You don't want to melt your fat. And the fat includes the butter and the cream cheese. So 3 tablespoons. We may need more, but you want to start with 3 tablespoons because this is what creates gluten. Wheat flour and water. All right, so once our flour was in, that didn't do anything. We're just going to pulse it. We're going to pulse it. And it should sort of come together in bigger clumps. All right, if it's not really coming together in good-sized clumps and it doesn't hold together when you squeeze it. So this is holding together, but I still want a little bit more water in there, because I really need it to come together, because we're going to roll out this dough and put it around our beautiful apple. So I'm going to add 2 more tablespoons because I know it's going to need that. Depending on how you measured your flour, you may, if you were a little heavy-handed with your flour, you may need a little more water. So what I like to do, instead of just pouring this out anywhere, what I do is I like to take this, and it does look like crumbs. I put it in a bowl. That's my little tip. Put your crust in a bowl, and it doesn't look like a crust, of course not, because we haven't gathered it together yet. So you're going to clean off very carefully. You're going to clean off your knife, because you don't want to cut yourself. All right, and then you're going to gather. So we don't want to knead this. This is not a yeast dough. This is a very tender, flaky pâte brisée, a flaky pie crust, a broken crust, whatever you want to call it. And it's beautiful. See, it's holding together very nicely. Look how nice. And when I go like this, watch, this is the test. Go like this, because when you roll it out, you don't want it to fall apart. And it's not. It's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shove this on the side. I'm going to get some plastic wrap. I'm going to bring it over to my work surface, and I'm going to put my crust on here. This is enough for a double crust pie, like a 9-inch double crust pie, if you wanted to do a different recipe. And then don't even worry about shaping it into a real dough yet, or a disc. Just wrap it, because we want to try to keep our hot little hands off of it. And our hands are hot. We can't help it. We're humans. 98.6. So we're going to push through the plastic wrap and form it into a disc. Use those abdominal muscles, all right? And we're just going to get it into a rectangle or a square disc, all right? And now it's going to go into the refrigerator for approximately an hour, or if you date it and label it, you can put it in the freezer for a month or two until you're ready to use it. So my apple dumpling dough, the pâte brisée, I've rolled it out to a 21, let me make sure I'm telling you right, a 21 by 16-inch rectangle, and I've trimmed it to a 21 by 14-inch rectangle so I can get some pastry scraps, because I'm going to make some leaves. All right, either free form it, I'll show you how to do that in a minute, or you can use some sort of a cookie cutter if you want. Now, the apples. I got some nice firm apples. These are Gala. You can have Granny Smith, anything that's firm. And you're going to keep the stem on. You're going to peel them, and you're going to core them, but not all the way through. So go upside down, take a corer, and go part the way down. You want to keep the stem, and you're trying to get all the seeds out. So you might want to take a little spoon, like a 1/4 teaspoon measurement spoon, and actually hollow it out there, because we're going to stuff it with some yumminess, okay? I've done that with 6 apples, and it's in water because apples can actually get brown, because they can when the skin is off and they're exposed to oxygen. So I put them in cold water with a little bit of lemon juice in there, maybe a tablespoon or 2, just to keep them from browning. Now, before we stuff them, I want to show you what our stuffing is made of. So I have 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar. I have 6 tablespoons of chopped walnuts. If you don't like walnuts, you can use any nut you want, pecans, almonds, macadamias, anything. If you don't like nuts, leave them out, okay? Don't worry about it. Teaspoon of apple pie spice. And I'm going to just mix that up a little bit. Forgot my spoon. I'm just going to mush that around. And then we're going to add some softened butter. So I have 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I just want to get the apple pie spice around there. And then I'm going to add my butter. And then this is where this is not really going to come in handy. I really need to use my best tools. And you know what that is, right? If you've seen enough of my videos, your hands. So we're going to coat the butter and sort of mush it around, because we want to almost get a paste. And this is going to be delicious. We're going to stuff every core where the core was with some of this apple pie spiced brown sugar and nut mixture. You can do anything you want. Some people actually take crushed cookies, like amaretti cookies. Those are like those little macaroons, not macaron, but like a crushed amaretti, and they shove them in, they crush them up and then put them in. If you like any other type of cookie, like a vanilla wafer would be good. You just don't want to get anything too mushy because the apples will form a little moisture. All right, so we have those. I'm going to put that aside. And I'm going to remove some of this. My hands are a little messy, so I will have to wash them in a minute, but I'm going to take my apples and I'm going to dry them on my either a dried paper towel or a kitchen towel. I just want to get them wet. And I'm going to take some of my paste, maybe a sixth of it or just enough to go in there, form like a little, you know, like a little cigar-like thing, and just sort of shove it in. shove it up your core, right? And then break it off okay? So we're going to do that to all the apples. I'm going to do one more for you, so you're going to dry it off. That one lost its stem, so I'm going to put that back. Sorry, fella. I want to see the stem because the stem is so pretty. So that's what you really want to see when you are making your apple dumplings. When you take them out of the oven, they're going to be these beautiful apples with the stem on them, covered in this beautiful flaky pastry with some leaves around them. I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty hot, and that is good. We're going to shove it in there, right? All right, now I'm going to just wipe my hands off. I actually am going to go to the sink for a second. And I'm going to wash my hands because they are brown sugary. And you know, a lot of people always say to me, you know, Chef Gail, I love your sink. I love your faucet. Well, my faucet is a touch delta, and I love it because watch what happens. When I touch it, it goes off. It's so cool. I love it. Okay, now we're back. I'm going to take one of my stuffed apples, and I'm going to put it in a square. This is a 7. What I did was, after I got the 21 inch by 14 inch, remember I took a little bit off for my leaves, which we haven't cut yet. I put it in half lengthwise, all right? So I have 7 inches here, 7 inches here, and then I cut the 21 inch side into thirds. So you're going to end up with 6 pieces, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the apple, you're going to fold the pastry around the apple. So let's take one of these. I'm just going to loosen it up, all right? Make sure it doesn't have a lot of flour on it. If it does, pastry brush and just brush it off. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to push this up all around the edges. And if it doesn't come all the way up, just sort of help it, because the pastry is malleable. Just sort of help it. And sort of fold it up, fold it up. All right, fold it, fold it, fold it. And if you have a little too much, you can actually take a little knife and cut it off. All right. And that's fine. Because some of your apples, my apples were a little smaller than my original when I tried out this recipe. So it just depends on what type of apples you have. My apples were a little tinier this time, and that's okay. And then you're going to just push it down so they stay upright. All right. Just sort of get them like that. And then I made one leaf already. So I had a leaf cookie cutter, but if you don't want to do that, watch what you can do. So let me just show you. I'm going to put this on a sheet pan. I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring this over, because we're going to do this for all 6 apples. So I have cookie cutters, but if you don't want to use a cookie cutter, just roll it out. Show you a really quick trick to make a nice leaf. I've shown this to so many students. It's a lot of fun to do. So we definitely will use this one from the cookie cutter, but just take a little sharp knife and just make like a little, sort of a little curve, and then do another little curve on the other side. Lift it up. I didn't cut all the way through. Make sure you cut all the way through. All right. And then you're going to make the veins in the leaves. And you can make any type of leaf that you want. And what I like to do when I see that it's not totally, straight, just sort of, your pastry is sort of like clay. You can make whatever you want of it. And then gently make like a little stem at the bottom. And then gently, I'm not going all the way through, so I'm not going to hurt myself, don't worry. And then I'm just going to make little indentations here. Okay? Go around the other side. Boom, boom. You can make 3 or 4, whatever you want to do. And you have a leaf. So it looks great. So I'm going to do some egg white wash. So instead of an egg yolks really bring in the heat. And we're baking these at 425 degrees. That's hot. So we want to be careful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to egg wash this with my egg white. I'm just going to go all the way around. This will not cause a lot of browning very quickly. If they do become brown, you can cover them with what's known as like a foil cover. You just take a piece of aluminum foil and put it over, tent it. So you make a little tent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick some leaves around here. So pretty. Look how pretty that looks. And I'm just going to egg wash that. I'm going to take my other little one. Just a gentle egg wash there. And you can make as many leaves as you want. 2 or 3 per apple would be. Doesn't that look pretty? And then we're going to put it in the oven, but one more touch that I don't want to miss. Sugar. You want to sugar it a little bit. That'll also help a little browning. And you're going to bake these for about 30 to 35 minutes. You want them golden brown. And what you want to do, don't take them out until you take a small sharp knife, go through, and the apple should be tender. So you should be able to pierce the knife through the apple pretty easily. All right, I'm going to continue with my apples. I'm going to bake them at 425 for about 30 to 35 minutes. Tent them if they get too brown. They're going to be awesome. So my apple dumplings just came out of the oven after about 30 to 35 minutes. Mine took about 30 minutes because my apples were smaller. If your apples are a little bigger, it might take a little longer. The pastry is gorgeous. They're sugared. You can see the stem. We're going to cut in and see what's inside. Okay, now they're really hot, and my knife went in super easily. So are you ready? Oh, can you hear that going through the pastry? Oh, it goes right in. It goes right in. Oh, oh, oh. I think I may pass out. It's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. Watch it. You're going to want to see this. You're going to want to see this. Look at this. It's gorgeous. It looks like an apple gave birth to walnuts and butter and brown sugar. And I love it. I love it. I love your babies. I'm going to eat them. Yum, yum. So I can't wait till you make these apple dumplings. Make them for the holidays. Make them for any special occasion you want. They're not hard to make, and they're scrumptious. I hope you make this video. Until next time, take care.